Welcome to the King of the Court podcast with Ben Riggs and Ben Staten.
Welcome to the King of the Court podcast. I'm Ben Riggs. This is Ben Staten.
Yo.
All right. Well, let's just jump right into it. We got a lot to cover on this show. We're going to get to Boston, OKC. Before we get into anything, though, I want to tell everybody thank you for subscribing to our podcast, wherever you get your podcast, for subscribing to us on YouTube, for liking, for sharing our content. We've seen a big bump in viewership on YouTube, and we're very appreciative of it. So thank you for that. Please continue to engage with our videos and share them with your friends and family. Text them to your friends and family. Share them on your social media feeds. It's great.
And we're at 99 subscribers, guys. I need us to get to 100. It's driving me crazy. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please just do, for my own sanity. Otherwise, I'm going to have to release a video every 3 hours just to get this. No one wants that.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's texted me 1,000 times about it in the past 24 hours. He's ready. He's really ready to get over the 99 subscriber. In fact, he put a tweet out the other night that said something like, "Thank you for everybody who says." I think he was just trying to bait somebody into.
Oh, 100%. Let's be 100% clear. That was 100% a bait tweet.
Yeah, he's just trying to get one guy to see that tweet and go, "I never subscribed."
And it didn't work. Okay, so now I'm feeling bad. So there you have it. Please subscribe. Get us over the 100 subscriber mark. No, but thank you all. We started this about 2 months ago, and we were talking and we're like, look, we'll do this for a year, and if at the end of the year we still have the same 5 people listening to this, it's us and our families. We'll probably not do it anymore. But we've got a great listening. We got people that we have a dedicated viewership now. People that comment on every video. It's been amazing. Thank y'all.
Yeah. So one thing that hasn't been amazing is all the shit going on South Beach. The whole Jimmy Butler thing has deteriorated, and not just so rapidly, but so aggressively. This thing has gotten so out of hand. It's bananas.
First off, great segue. That was just fantastic, fantastic use of that. But no, it's been one of the most cartoonish sequences you'll ever seen. My favorite part is within the span of 3 days we get, the 2 statements with nothing in between. One statement was saying, "This is Pat Riley's office. We will not trade Jimmy Butler." And then the next statement 2 days later is, "Jimmy Butler hates it here, so we are now open to trading him."
Yeah.
Also, we're suspending him for 7 games. Okay.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. And on the one hand, I fault everybody involved. Jimmy Butler has acted like a maniac. But in Jimmy, or not even in Jimmy.
Jimmy Butler's been fine. It's his agent that's been the fucking lunatic.
Well, actually, all 3 of them have been crazy. So the agent goes on some weird seemed like he was a few gin and tonics into it before he started tweeting at
Listen
Shams
here,
that
Shams.
night.
Okay, don't make me give you a knuckle sandwich unless you do this again. I've told you many times that I'm not talking to other teams.
Just bizarre shit. And then weirdly, this isn't in defense of Jimmy Butler, because I think he's behaved in a way that's indefensible. But I guess a criticism or a critique I would have of Pat Riley, Brian Windhorst brought it up, I completely agree with him, is that who the hell Jimmy Butler is and how he acts. So if you're going to come out and you're going to take this route with him, this is what it's going to deteriorate into. This is a dick measuring contest. And both of them are going to win.
Yes. And the best part about this, the most likely outcome is not only that he stays on the team this year, because I think there's Phoenix that wants to trade for him, and that's for a bunch of reasons. Why would the Heat want Bradley Beal for 3 years? I think
no trade clause.
I think it's no trade clause, so that may not be moot. It's Phoenix, and then there's I've heard also Sacramento, but also the Kings owner may be lunatic enough just to trade for him, but again, why would they want Kevin Huerter? Why would he want Kevin Huerter? But the most likely outcome of all this is that not only is Jimmy Butler on the team for the rest of the year, and as you mentioned to me privately, there's the new CBA means he has to travel with them, so they can't just send him home. He has to play in the games. Not only that, but he has to come back next year because he's not going to opt out of $52 million when the most likely out, because there's not a lot of teams with cap space, and there's not the teams that have cap space are the they're based like the Brooklyn Nets, are not going to sign a 35-year-old Jimmy Butler for their tanking job. Like, so he'd probably be able to get what, the mid-level exception, maybe a little higher. He's not going to take like a 5x pay cut.
Yeah, this is like the relationship equivalent
next year. It's gonna be great.
This is like the relationship equivalent of two people who've grown to like absolutely hate each other.
Yeah.
But instead of getting a divorce, they move into separate rooms and stay together in the same house. Like, because Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley are about to live with each other, because Pat Riley and the Heat benefit too much from Jimmy Butler opting out of that contract to trade him away. Yeah. Jimmy Butler knows he can't make as much next year as he would if he opted into that contract. And complicating things for Pat Riley and them is that who's going to give you what you want for Jimmy Butler?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way this is going anywhere. And then, 100%. Like, and then the NBA is going to step in and be like, well, actually, there's some rules you guys have to follow. Because
want to see this go completely crazy. So you're gonna have to play him when he's back from his.
Yeah, well, and it's like he's not Kevin Huerter, so he's not just like a little role player that the NBA could, theoretically you could, request them to give you an exception to this rule or something.
Well, you can't say we benched him for performance reasons. Like, what I mean?
He's the franchise player. Like, you can't take the best player on the team and be like, look, he just ain't cutting it on the court. He can't cut it out there. Also, if you're Jimmy,
I must say, Haywood Highsmith, significantly better performer.
Yeah.
Like the NBA, like, sure, buddy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's like if you're looking, and if you're Jimmy Butler and you get just sitting on the bench, not traveling with the team, and the justification that the team has to give is that he just can't cut it. He can't break into our starting rotation. Yeah. The rest of the league is going to be like, so you're telling me he's worth this player and this many picks, but he can't break into your starting rotation, and you're not even a playoff team?
Yeah.
Because that's where the Heat are heading right now. Like,
on the plus side, well, on the negative side, Bam also has been playing bad this year. But on the plus side, Tyler Hero's good.
Yeah, Tyler Hero's the only thing that's going for Miami.
When he's not getting chucked to the floor by Amin Thompson, he's doing great. Yeah. That was like a great judo move too. Like,
that was a great judo takedown. It really was. And Tyler Hero had that like smirky, like, just like, oh God, like you hate it, like after he gets thrown down, where he's like just condescending as hell.
Yeah.
Like, dude, we all saw what just happened.
Yeah. Well, my favorite part was afterwards you could hear Amin Thompson be like, I'll beat your ass. Like, no one's denying that fact.
No, we watched you.
No one any doubt that you could beat up Tyler Hero. Let's be very
Tyler Hero knows you would beat up Tyler Hero. Like, there's no doubt about it whatsoever. Speaking of getting beat up, this is just a quick aside real quick. Why would anybody want to win the NBA Cup? Like, the cup curse is like, it's real, man. Like, Adam Silver will tell you that, the games don't matter and all that stuff. And so maybe the NBA Cup ain't real, but I'm going to tell you right now, the lingering effects of the cup curse are real. Last year, the Los Angeles Lakers win it and they go 2-6.
Yep.
This year, the Bucks win it and they go 3-5 after they win the cup.
Well, let's be very clear. It's not a cup curse. It's the Darvin Ham curse.
Oh, so it's not Adam Silver's fault.
No, it's Darvin Ham. This is the trade-off. Like, this is, you make a pact with Darvin Ham Devil. When
Darvin Ham Diablo.
You are doomed to have a chaotic regular season, but you're going to go undefeated. Not just win the NBA Cup, undefeated throughout the whole process. So, on the plus side, Damian Lillard finally won a trophy. Even though it was a decapitated one. On the negative side, they're now doomed to, I guess, finish in the play-in.
It's gonna be rough for the rest of the regular season if the Darvin Ham Cup curse is true.
He is setting himself up to win the trophy name. Like it is, like it's what Many moons from now, when people ask me, "Dad, what was this thing called the NBA Cup that I see on here?" I was like, "Well,
Well, hold on. You won't have to explain it to him. All you have to do is pull up the 30 for 30 entitled "The Darvingham Curse."
the episode 1000 of 30 for 30. Yeah, that would be
Yeah, and it's just going to start with how like LeBron, the Lakers, Darvin Ham, all those guys just really wanted to win the inaugural NBA Cup, so they made a pact with the devil.
Yeah.
And as a result, anybody who wins the NBA Cup is therefore cursed forever.
Yeah. But no, seriously, the cup's got some perilous times in if like there's going to be the track record of every team that wins it just craters, it's not going to last very long in the NBA. Like it's not going to last as a standalone thing, put it that way.
Well, let me tell you what, since we're on the NBA Cup, let me tell you what my biggest problem with the NBA Cup is. And it actually kind of pisses me off. It's annoying. That's a better way of saying it. It's really annoying. OKC is phenomenal, dude. Like they're winning games. Shai looks great. There are some things about that team that, in terms of playoff basketball, I'll nitpick. I'm happy to do it, but they're winning. I'm not arguing with you that they are winning. But you cannot tell me, this is exactly what Adam Silver is saying to me. Adam Silver is saying the NBA Cup matters. The NBA Cup tournament matters. It makes the early season games more meaningful. And players are playing hard because they want to reach the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and they want to compete in the finals for the Emirates Cup and the $500,000 cash prize. So these games matter, damn it, and I want you to watch them. So we're putting as much paint as we can find on the court. We're giving all the teams cool new jerseys. Like the NBA Cup games matter. And so you're like, all right, man, I'll watch it. And you tune in and you watch the Bucks and the Thunder. And you're like, damn, Giannis looked great. The Bucks look great. They demolished OKC. And then Adam Silver's like, no. They're on a 15-game winning streak.
Not only that, the stats from that game don't exist.
Do not exist.
Do not exist.
This is the NBA Cup sponsored by the CIA.
Yeah.
It's like a covert NBA tournament that doesn't exist. It literally is what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. If you scored 101 points in that game, you would have to suffer the humiliation of being told that your game did not happen, and Wilt Chamberlain still holds the record for most points in a game. Is that not the craziest shit in the world to you? Look, like I said, OKC's great. They are not on a 15-game winning streak. Oklahoma City's not on a 15-game winning streak. I watched it. I saw Giannis dismantle the Thunder with my own two eyes. It didn't happen.
Well, even the coach of the Thunder was getting on this, where they asked him, like, you're undefeated against the East. And he's like, I mean, I was there. We lost in Milwaukee. Like, I saw that. That's what he said. Like, I saw that. Like, you can't tell me it didn't happen. Yeah.
Lost handedly.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, man. Like, my thing about OKC, like, I'm not, this podcast is not about OKC. This is about Adam Silver and his bizarre ass propaganda that's self-contradicting, and that he's telling me the NBA Cup matters and it also doesn't exist at the same time. And so, like, but, you know, one of the interesting things about the OKC Milwaukee game is that OKC is one of those teams, and we saw it today, or you saw it today. I was actually really busy with youth basketball all day long, and so I didn't. My son had 2 games and a practice, and so I didn't get to make it to watch the game. But OKC is one of those teams that shows up every night and competes like it is a playoff series.
Yes.
I think there is something to be said, or questions to be asked about, you know, the wisdom of that and whether or not that's sustainable over the course of 82 games in the playoffs, or whether or not you can get burnt out. But all that aside, doesn't matter. Them in Cleveland right now, who we do have the good fortune of getting to watch on Wednesday, them two teams show up every night and compete like they're in the playoffs. And OKC showed up in Las Vegas to compete against Milwaukee. And when Milwaukee had the opportunity to watch film and prepare and go in with a game plan, they demolished OKC. OKC didn't just lose, they got the brakes beat off of them. And so I am happy to admit, happy is doing a lot of work in that sentence. I'm willing to admit OKC is playing great basketball. They look great. Wednesday, we will be able to decide in real time who looks the best in the NBA right now. However, they are not on a 15-game winning streak. And there is nothing that you can do to convince me otherwise.
No, the funniest outcome of this possible would be if they actually ended up breaking the 30-game winning streak the Lakers had in the 70s and hold the record, and then the NBA has to have a little asterisk saying they lost halfway through this.
Yeah, I mean, well, but what I'm saying to Adam Silver in that moment is that he can take his Kremlin-style propaganda machine and shove it up his ass, because I watched the game in Las Vegas. OKC did not win it. And so unless they extend that 30-something games beyond Las Vegas, OKC didn't break any record. They didn't do anything. Oh, no, well, I mean, they did something. They won a lot of games, but they did not break any record.
No. I think everyone agrees with you. It's just very funny
except for Adam Silver.
Except for Adam Silver and the OKC Thunder local news reporters who conveniently have never hold all this.
But anyway, that is my smooth transition into setting the stage for you, because I know that you had some pretty strong feelings about the game that you watched today. I didn't get to see it. I looked at the box score. I do believe this is one of those games where the box score kind of tells the story. But I'm going to give you the platform and let you sort of take over from here and tell us about this OKC Boston showdown. It was in OKC, right?
It was in OKC, and it's a tale of two halves. It is a situation where in the first half, both teams came out ready to fight. They both came out and said that this was an important game with intensity from the get-go. And Boston's game plan in the first half worked to perfection. They played inside out. They posted up Porzingis. They attacked the boards. They were physical. They tried, they hunted mismatches on Shai specifically, trying to get him, shoving him under the rim. Brown got at least 2 or 3 and ones by just shoving Shai under the hoop and getting and forcing him to foul him on a layup. Shai had 2 early fouls. They attacked well. They protected the ball. They went into halftime with a 10-point lead. Should have been 15, basically, but they got an unlucky bounce on a rebound that OKC was able to translate into a 3-pointer to close the gap. It was one of the best halves of basketball you're going to watch all year. Aaron Wiggins kept the Thunder in the game at that point there. And in the second half, OKC did their patented come out with more intensity. And Boston does the Boston thing, where they short-circuited. And they reverted to trying to take as many three-pointers as possible. And they went 3 for 24 from 3 in the second half. They scored 27 points in the second half. They scored 65 in the first half. They scored 15 points in the third quarter and 12 in the fourth. They made 8 field goals in the second half. This was one of the worst basketball halves you will ever watch, and credit has to go to the Thunder.
I mean, in part, granted, I think for the point of this segment where we're talking about this game, I think it's fair to just say credit to the Thunder. Thunder played and I would suspect, having not watched the game, that the Thunder looked like the Thunder. They came out, they played hard. They ratchet up intensity in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. They come out in the second half as a different team, and they try to punk you. And they punked the Mavericks. They punked the Knicks. They punk teams right now because they come out and they are ferocious. They play hard. They're very physical, and they punked the Celtics.
And the other thing that needs to be said about the Celtics is they,
My question is
yeah,
this: like,
yeah.
where do you place the blame?
The Celtics.
No,
On
no, no,
Joe,
no, no,
on
no.
Joe
Understand
Mazzulla.
that?
Joe
Yeah,
Mazzulla.
that's what
It
I
is
mean.
really simple. It is really simple. You can say, you heard on the broadcast, oh, well, like the reason they're shooting so poorly is because the Thunder are contesting all these threes. Yes. Well, there's two things. One, you don't have to take a three-pointer. You can attack the rim. But two, it's really easy to game plan against Boston. They know what you're trying to do, which is the three-point shot. One of the reasons it was really effective in the first half was that Boston came out doing something that Oklahoma City was not expecting. And you could see Oklahoma City was like, wait, what? Like you could see it sort of frazzled them. And this is the one weakness that Mark Daigneault has as a coach, and you saw it in the NBA Cup final. His adjustments can be a little difficult. He's not as good at he's really really good at game planning. He's like a football coach who can game plan before a game, but if he like in game adjustments, not so good. There's a sort of football coach element to him. And in the first half, Celtics stuck to their game plan. They had him on the ropes. They really did. They were up 10 at the half. And second half, they reverted to playing Celtics ball. And the Oklahoma City Thunder were prepared for this. They really aggressively ran over every screen. Joe Mazzulla after the game was basically doing that thing where he does weird sayings, like things along the lines of, you can tell the heart of a humpback whale by how many times he gets harpooned. It's like, what does that mean? No one knows. But he said, oh, the point of the game happened was like, we didn't set good screens. No, the problem wasn't screens. The problem was OKC knew exactly what you're trying to do, which was use the screens to get open three-pointers. They packed. They were really physical. They ran over every screen. Celtics were then taking only contested threes. They didn't Porzingis for almost the entirety of the second half would have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on him in the post, and they ignored it. They just ignored it. In the first half, he got 2 or 3 or 4 post ups and like that where they just got him the ball down low. He had a small guy on him. He did that Porzingis thing. He slowly turns around. He sort of falls over because he's Porzingis, steadies himself, shoots the ball, and makes it. They didn't go to that at all. The coaching on the Celtics is a major problem. It is a major, major problem. They won the title last year, and people were like, "Oh, well, this is a justification. This is, this shows that his strategy of just shooting threes makes sense." They didn't win the title last year because of three-pointers. Let me just read you 5 numbers: 107, 105, 106, 85, 106. That is the number of points they scored in every game in the finals. That is a lower level of that is fewer points than the average point scored in an NBA game this season. They won last year because they have a really, really good defense. They had a really good defense this game. They held the OKC Thunder to 105 points. The problem with this offense is that when they don't make their three-pointers, it looks like there's a really dumb computer which is just running a program that's not working over and over again and not making the adjustments. It looks ridiculous. And you saw it in the second half. They were just taking open threes. They were 1 for 13 on threes in the third quarter. The whole 10-point lead evaporated. And at the end of the quarter, they got the ball to Porzingis in the post with 5 seconds left, and he just makes a jump shot. And they didn't go back to that again for the rest of the game. Mazzulla is. I question how good a coach he is. I seriously question how good a coach he is.
I don't
question whether he has. Yeah, he had a really easy run until the finals.
Yes,
where I give him credit. He won against a good Mavericks team, but he had a really easy run. And the Celtics did not have to make any major adjustments during that finals run. They were able to win on the strength of their defense alone.
I agree with you completely about that. I
think this is not the same year. This is a different year. We got better teams. We got a lot better teams. We got a lot more stiffer competition. We got teams that now know what the Celtics are trying to do, that have game planned and built themselves to defeat them. I question whether he is a coach who is savvy enough, because he let all of this happen and did that Mazzulla thing where he just sat there like, oh man, I don't know, what can I do? Team, this is not working. Am I going to make an adjustment? No. Am I going to call timeout? No. The team came out in the second half completely frazzled. They needed someone to call timeout, scream at the players, say, here's 4 set plays, get the ball in the post, get back in the game plan. We know how to win. We know what we did in the first half. Get back to doing that. He let it go off the rails because he has this weird philosophical belief that you shouldn't call timeouts. What's the kind of a point? If you're not going to call timeouts, I really question what the value of this guy is.
To be clear, he really has stated he thinks that the players need to play through the in-game slumps, and he resists calling timeouts. Look, My thing with the Celtics from the beginning of the season has been, I think that they're the best team in the NBA. However, I think that a lot of people have put them, and quite frankly, a lot of places, including on this podcast, after that first game or few games they had this year, had them in a category that's completely of their own. I actually think there are a few teams in the NBA, when fully healthy, that can compete with the Celtics. My thing is this, is that I agree with you completely that the weakest link with the Celtics is Joe Mazzulla.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that last year, through the Eastern Conference playoffs, they had, I'm not going to say it was the easiest. It's the easiest I can remember in terms of a path through to the finals. And I think that he believes that you just keep shooting the threes because over time you're going to land on your average. But my thing is this, and I think he believes that you will land on your average and that your defense will keep the game close and you just shoot through the slump and, you'll win that way. And he thinks that you may lose a game in a playoff series or something like that. But over the course of 7 games, like I could easily see Joe Mazzulla, kind of like in the vein of your humpback whale comment earlier. Like I could easily see Joe Mazzulla answering a question about, are you worried about your team being able to win critical playoff series if you don't, adjust when they're not shooting well and quit shooting as many threes and start attacking the rim more? And he would respond something to the effect of, just look the reporter who asked the question like right into their eyes, and then very stoically say something like, if you sneak up on a tiger once, you may get its tail. But if you try it 7 times, death will find you. Like, and in his mind, what that means is, over the course of 7 games, we're going to shoot well enough in 4 of them to win those games, and nobody can beat us when we're doing that. I do not agree with that. And the reason I don't is because of what you said earlier. You're too predictable. If I know you're not going to deviate from that strategy, I'm going to guard the 3-point line like my life depends on it.
Yeah.
Like if you think back to the Mavericks series last year, one of the things I would say is you've got a guy hanging out around the rim, leaving someone open on the 3-point line because you think you need to protect it. I understand why you think you need to protect it. It would make sense that you would think you need to protect it. What you don't understand is you're going up against a coach who isn't necessarily relying on sense. He's relying on numbers that work over the course of a lot of games. But like, for example, today, it's about winning the game today.
Yes.
And when you're shooting as poorly as they were from 3, you've got to make adjustments to win today's game and not trust that you're going to revert in this case, up to the average.
There's no excuse. There's no excuse for this. They went 9 for 46 from 3.
9 for 46. That's insane.
That's insane. You should never be 9 for 46. Not because you're not allowed to be cold shooting. It's that if you're shooting that poorly, you should not take 46 3-pointers. It is that simple.
100%.
If you're shooting 9 for 46 from 3, more than half of your shots should not be 3-pointers.
I told a kid.
Very simple.
I told a kid the other day who shot a 3-point shot in practice. I said, why did you shoot that? That's not your shot. And he goes, I was open. I was like, there's a reason. like there's some common sense that goes into this. I know no one on the Celtics is a poor enough shooter to just leave them open. But like at a certain point, you have to realize what's not working. And here's the other point I'll make about
what's particularly damning about this game is that there was the first half where they attacked the rim aggressively. They set up. They played inside out. They tried to establish their guards. They realized they had a size advantage. They hunted Shai. They used Porzingis. They did it aggressively. It worked. They had a 10-point lead at halftime. Oklahoma City had no answer, and they just abandoned it. That's the part that makes this even more egregious. Because it's one thing if they just went out the game from this way, and then it just didn't work at the beginning. It was a complete debacle the entire game. But for it to work, and you just be like, "Hey, let's throw it away now, guys," that makes no sense. It's particularly and that's where I question him as a coach. I question him because he makes no adjustments, and he didn't have to make adjustments. He's like, "Guys, let's go back to what we were doing before because that was working."
Yeah. It's not an adjustment; it's a remembrance. Those are two different things. It's memory, not creativity and adjusting. Now, look, to me, this is the most damning part of it. I didn't watch the game, but I'm assuming based on what you're telling me that a significant part of the reason why Boston shot poorly from three is that OKC was aggressively contesting the shots from three.
Yeah.
And what that tells me when you have players like Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, and Jayson Tatum, I'll give you Porzingis. If Porzingis is out there on the 3-point line and the shot's being aggressively contested, the best move for him is to probably pass it and put the ball in the hands of a ball handler or find an open shooter. But when you're talking about Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, and Drew Holiday, if you're going to aggressively contest perimeter shots, those guys are more than capable of attacking those contests and getting to the rim. That's shooting fish in a barrel for people like that.
They had There was Boston's defense in the half court. OKC really struggles in the half court. Partly because they only have two dudes who can dribble the ball, and it makes them pretty predictable. They also the Celtics bigs defended well, and in the first half they were able to contain OKC because they minimized their turnovers, which became an issue in the second half because OKC cranked up the intensity, and also because if you shoot contested 3-pointers and you miss them, you create long rebounds, which allows you to run off of. This is a basic principle of basketball. It is much easier to run off a missed 3-pointer than it is off a missed 2-pointer because the ball just bounces further away. People are out of position. The defense is more spread out. The offense that's shooting that then becomes the defense is more spread out. It allows you to create. It creates a fast break opportunity. It sped the game up. Boston did the same thing they did in that playoff series against Miami 2 years ago in the Game 7 where Tatum went down. But if you remember carefully in that game, they started off cold from three, and they shot 10 3-pointers out the game and missed all of them. And they just they became impulsive. They started shooting more and more and more, and they were getting flustered and getting frazzled. That was kind of what was happening today. They were look, Boston's not going to shoot 9 for 46 again. They're too good of a team to do that consistently. But OKC had a clear game plan on defense that made a lot of sense. They realized Boston's game and their 3-point shooting relies on screen and roll action.
Oh, and to be clear, the way you said
blows up screens better than any team in the league, and they were committed to that nonstop. And in the first half, they were trying to do that, but Boston was like, "That's fine. I'm trying to get the ball in the post." And so there was a disconnect between what the defense was trying to do and what Boston was trying to achieve. That merged in the second half because Boston started playing out OKC wanted them to play, and it became a perfect storm. It was really. There's no excuse again, as I said, for how bad this coaching job was.
To be clear too, one of the things I think is obvious when you watch OKC play is what I said earlier about them in Cleveland show up ready to go like it's a playoff game every game they play. One of the things I think is less clear is that in advance of that game, Mark Daigneault and the coaching staff also shows up ready to play. They have a very sound game plan in place.
He is one of the best coaches in the league, he flat out. Yeah.
And but here's a point that I'll make about before I do this. Let me ask you: are you done? Are you done on Boston, or do you have more you want to? Do you want to officially burn Joe Mazzulla at the stake, or do you want? Because I do want to mention a few things about OKC. I know you had more feelings on Boston than I did.
I just want to say, as someone who's defended Boston consistently for the last 3 years, I have been strongly in their corner, and I believe that the 3-point this year has gotten out of hand with 3-point shooting, but I believe that it was a right strategy. I'm a strong believer in Tatum. I believe that team made sense. I believe that they got an insane amount of flack for a team that continuously makes the Eastern Conference Finals every year and has made it to the finals twice in 4 years and won it once. This game was really frustrating because the biggest criticism Boston continuously gets is that they played dumb. They played dumb. And this showed that this proved the point. The criticism is correct. This is the counterpoint to this is, oh, well, when they make 3-point shots, it works. Well, yes, when teams make shots, offense is usually good. That is the principle. That's how that works.
The truth is that's true about Chicago.
That's also true about any offense you run. Yeah. If people are shooting well, the offense is going to look good. That's literally how it works. So, like that, yes, if you're making all the shots, then the shots you're taking are good. But you got to have some ability to. You got to have some ability to change your strategy when it's not working. And I question whether this team, when the competition is higher, they have more talent, in my opinion, than any team in the league. They can win. They just won a title on talent alone because it wasn't like their players on offense were playing that great last postseason. In fact, it was kind of a rocky road the entire time. But as I mentioned, they won all those. They won the finals without scoring 110 points once.
Oh, they're the best defensive team in the NBA.
Yeah, and so it is possible, but this is a flashing red siren showing you guys need to be better than last year to win the title. You guys need to be able to make more adjustments than you did last year to win the title, and they failed this test. It is an early test. It does not matter in the grand scheme of things, but they failed this test spectacularly in the second half.
So here's a point that I'll make, and I think that you will potentially disagree with it. I don't think you're wrong because I didn't watch the game, like I said. So I take your word for it. But I do think there is an element of this where OKC goes into these games against Dallas, Boston, New York, and it means more to them than it means to their opponent. That was one of the things that I found interesting about the Milwaukee game was because Milwaukee had demonstrated as a result of making the NBA Cup final that they wanted to win it, and they showed up and they played aggressively and they dominated that game.
And they had a strategy specifically geared towards
OKC.
And
they also happen to have an offensive weapon that's indomitable. And so, I think that has to be mentioned as well. But they also showed how you deal with, attempting to swarm your best offensive player. They showed how you prevent double teams by going into 2-man action with, Giannis and Dame. I think actually Dallas showed a little bit of that towards the end of that game with Luka and Kyrie. But I do think this means more to OKC than it does to Boston. I suspect a couple of things about OKC. One, it doesn't look like Jalen Williams had a particularly good day.
No, he struggled.
And to me, that's a problem. The problems I see for OKC moving forward.
OKC didn't do well on offense. They had 105 points, and that was goosed up at the end because Celtics were kind of running around and the league gave up.
And it's also I would suspect, having not watched the game, and so I guess this is also kind of a good way of kind of testing this theory. I mean, 105 points on offense, heavily weighted by the contributions of Shai. Once again, there's no question as to whether or not Shai can score the basketball at will. He shot 42%, I think, in the game, had 33 points, so it wasn't his most efficient night, but it was still looks like it was a really, really good game from Shai. But when you're shooting bad, like Boston was, those tend to end up being a lot of tend to end up being a lot of long rebounds that result in transition baskets. Points off of takeaways. You also see OKC doubling up Boston in that category. I think when you get to the playoffs, all of this shit slows down. I also think that one of the fatal flaws for OKC last year was that Jalen Williams was not a reliable number 2 option. And the way OKC plays relegates Chet Holmgren to a perimeter player. I think he'll have trouble in the postseason getting to the rim and scoring at the same clip he was doing early in the season. And then the final point I'll make about OKC, I'm skeptical of their ability to sustain this level of intensity over the course of 82 games in the playoffs.
I think that, well, the last one's an open question. I don't know the answer to that. Like they have.
I don't either. That's why I say I'm skeptical of it, and that
I will say to their credit, they have a very deep team, and like they've been able to sustain injuries. I will like the things that were notable to me were in the first half. Boston played very physically, and they took advantage of their size differential. And they took advantage. They played smart. They isolated Shai on like Jaylen Brown multiple times. They isolated him on Drew Holiday, and they just were they shoved him on the rim because he's tiny. He's tiny, and he's kind of and they hunted mismatches. They played like you would expect a team who had geared up for this game to play. In the second half, they reverted to their offense, and one of the things that OKC has is they play, as I said before, very physically. They're very, very physical. I mean, they don't look necessarily the biggest team, but they play incredibly physically. And the refs, like a lot like situations, typically allowed to go. They were allowing it like this. And the Celtics commentators after the game were complaining ad nauseum about. They said, "Oh well, things that they were allowing, they were calling fouls in the Celtics for, where they were allowing the Thunder to do." That may be true, but the Thunder were playing with more aggression, and refs typically allow the team playing with more aggression a little more leeway because they see that team is trying harder. And so, if you're not going to match their physicality, you will not beat OKC.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you about that.
And
my thing is when you get into the playoffs, teams are going to match it.
Yes, there's that, and it is notable to me that the team that they struggled the most against this year is Milwaukee, which is universally bigger than like that. And not only that, they have the perfect antidote to the sort of destroyer type players that OKC has in Dort. They have a bigger version of that in Giannis, who's just trucking Dort around the court. And at one point, I remember Lopez jumped on his back or something.
Well, I think you can. You can make similar arguments about the New York Knicks game against OKC. Yeah. Look. At the risk of sounding like I'm just hating on OKC for the sake of hating on OKC, which I don't think I am. I do believe OKC will finish with a top 2 or 3 best record in the NBA during the regular season. I am saying that if OKC messes around and draws, for example, a team like the Lakers, who have such a massive size differential on them, with players like Dorian Finney-Smith, Rui, AD, and LeBron, I think that's a matchup problem for them.
Yeah.
I think that the Mavericks, when you get into the playoffs and things slow down and you have them in the half court and you have a team that's going to get to the rim, I think that's going to complicate things for OKC. I think that there are issues with the Oklahoma City Thunder team where people are rushing to coronate them as the best thing we've ever seen on a basketball court. And when I watch them, there is one thing I see on a basketball court that truly impresses me and that I believe works in the playoffs. And that's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
The
defense to me, and I've said this before on the podcast, the defense to me, once teams start preparing for it, they watch film, they scheme, they rep out their strategy in practice. That to me, that defense is not going to look in the playoffs like it looked in the regular season.
I agree. I agree with the look, if they continue at this pace, obviously, look, like they won like whatever. I believe it's either 10 or it's 15 games. It's clearly 10 because they lost to the 10
There
game.
is no or in that
Yeah,
equation.
there's a
It's
based
10
on
games.
they're on a 10 game winning streak, and what I will they if this team if they can keep up this intensity, this is quite frankly a team that is playing hard enough, and that if it continues to go this way, they could challenge the 73-9 and get around a record around that. I don't know if they break it, like where it's too early to say that, but they're on the same pace as the 72 win Bulls are. Like they literally are on the identical pace in terms of wins at the Bulls are at this time. The one note I will make is if you look at the losses they've had this year. I believe they're outside the Dallas one. Dallas they won first, but they lost to the Spurs in the second time around. They played them. They lost to Nuggets second time around. They played them. They lost to the Warriors both times, but that second one was colored by Chet getting hurt. And there, it will be interesting to see because we will see the Knicks play them again this week. As you mentioned, their intensity and where they play is different than other teams. It catches you off guard. It will be interesting to see for me to see if the Knicks, after sort of doing the same, they had it was a very similar game to what the Celtics had. They came out the lead in the first half. The Knicks, Oklahoma City ramped the intensity. The Knicks kind of crumbled. Celtics did the same thing. It'll be interesting to me to see if the Knicks learn from that and are able to act like to win this next go around. If they do, that does tell me that there is the risk of this sort of being a flash in the pan thing where they catch teams off guard the first time around, and then the second go around, teams are ready for this. They're ready for the intensity. They're more prepped for it. They do a better job. So that I'm interested to see that. I also the
Well, I
warning
think
signs
I think there's also an element to what you just said that reverts back to something you said earlier,
yeah.
which is I think a lot of these teams, look, this isn't like a theory that I have. It's the whole reason, not to harp on the NBA Cup. It's the whole reason it exists. Why did they start the NBA Cup?
To make the games in the earlier beginning of the season matter more was literally the stated reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're telling me when you say that there are a bunch of teams in the NBA who don't give a shit about the early season games. Am I right? Am I understanding?
That's a tacit acknowledgement you're making.
Yes. When you say we're starting the NBA Cup because we want to make the early season games matter more and get players to play harder in them and play them like they're meaningful basketball games, you are telling me that the players and the teams do not approach early season games as though they're meaningful basketball games and as a result don't play as hard. And what I'm saying is it is very obvious when you watch Oklahoma City that they are not one of the teams that are guilty of that. If all of the teams in the NBA played with the same level of intensity as OKC, there would be no NBA Cup.
Yeah.
It would not exist.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm 100% right about that.
Yeah.
And I know that because the same guy who tells me that the NBA Cup matters more than anything and it doesn't exist said so. And so what I'm saying is OKC is out there playing harder than everyone. And everyone else is approaching these games like, hey, man, these are just regular season games. Just sort of chill out. Have you ever seen that video of Devin Booker where he's at the open gym and they double team him and he just like throws the ball to the side and he's like, hey, this is open gym. Don't come over here double teaming me.
Yeah.
Like, and I get that in an open gym type situation. But like Anthony Edwards, I think feels that way about just regular games. But like,
we can get on to that.
Yeah, we'll get on to that in a minute. But the point I'm making is that other teams aren't approaching these games with the same level of intensity because these games don't matter as much to other teams as they do to OKC. And I think when you show up and you play them once, OKC takes it really serious and they do what you said earlier. They punk you.
Yeah.
And I think the second time teams show up, they're like, look here, motherfucker. You came at me like a bat out of hell in that last game. It's going to be different this time. And there's a little ego and professional pride involved in it, and they play you more physical.
Yeah, because there's that. There's also the thing where OKC isn't like they're big, but they're not as tall. So like it's extra embarrassing when you get punked by someone who's not as big as you. But the the other major red flag that stood out to me throughout the game. OKC's half court offense. Now this is missing Chet Holmgren, so we have to get that data. Like we have to get the sample size with him coming. Assuming he comes back. We have to see what it looks like with him. But their half court offense is very rough against a good defense. They really struggle in the same way they struggle against Dallas. Like the same issues pop up again, like as they saw in the Dallas series last year.
Yes.
They still struggle. It becomes a Shai show. Like they need random like co-pilot dudes like Aaron Wiggins start making threes. Like they got that in this game. They got Aaron Wiggins in the first half. They got Dort at the end to sort of close the game.
Same thing happened in the Knicks game. Aaron Wiggins came in the second half and went off.
Yeah, and so like, is that enough? It could be, but like typically, this is just the reality. Typically, these supporting cast characters don't do as well in the playoffs. It's just
not only do they not do as well, but their minutes are going to be reduced. It's going to be tighter rotations.
Yeah,
and like the truth is, like because here's the thing. There's only so many minutes you can give these guys. Like, because I get it. Like Aaron Wiggins apparently played very well today. Played very well against New York. Like when you watch the New York game, one of the things that's happening is New York's bench is getting cooked. I mean, like if I remember correctly,
Boston's bench got cooked too. If
I remember correctly, it was 42-5 in the Knicks game.
I don't think it was that extreme, but it was bad. Like the only because Horford couldn't hit threes, and Pritchard was like.
Oh, you're saying it wasn't as bad today.
Oh, I mean, it wasn't 45-3, whatever you said. It was but it was bad still. Like it was.
OKC Knicks game was 46-5 in bench scoring. All right.
Yeah.
The problem is going to be with that in the playoffs. You're not going to have the bench on the floor long enough to run up those types of margins. The problem for OKC is that they can't do that with their starters on the floor.
Yeah, I mean it was 27-13 in the Celtics game, so it's still pretty bad. And this is sort of the ace in the hole that OKC has, which is they have so many good perimeter defenders. They can swarm second teams. They can swarm backup ball handlers and second units and commit and instigate a bunch of turnovers. Get them to commit a bunch of turnovers. And they did that tonight. It didn't really hurt something in the first half when they were playing on point. In the second half, when the team was already rocky, and they just brought in Peyton Pritchard for an 8-minute stint for some reason, that went off the rails as well because Pritchard was trying to bring the ball up by himself, and instead of it should have been Tatum. Tatum was the one player who consistently was able to get where he wanted on the court and play well. Brown played well in the first half. Brown needs to work on his handle. OKC was just taking the ball away from him continuously in the second half.
That's been an issue with him for a long time.
Yeah, it was working well in the first half because they were just posting him up basically, and that worked well. Second half, he tried to attack the rim, and they would just every time he got the he drove to the hoop, they just take the ball from him. He would fall to the floor and take the ball from him. It was.
Well, I mean, my final thoughts on OKC, and then I'll let you sort of.
Yeah, look, I'll say this: you got one team who shot 42.1% from three, another one who shot 19.6 and took 8 more 3-pointers. That's bad basketball. It's dumb basketball. It's part of the reason we had these debates about whether the three-pointer is killing the NBA, because we have teams playing idiotic basketball and aren't adapting. Because what people aren't mad about is three-pointers.
Well,
they see teams miss 20 in a row and
let's circle back to that in a minute. Yeah.
As the King of the Court podcast, I officially declare that Joe Mazzulla is the court jester of the week. He is. It was a warning sign, and it makes me question. Boston has time to adapt, but it makes me question whether they have the coaching savvy to win the title again, to repeat.
Yeah. So my thing, and I'll let you have the final word on Boston, and what I'll say about OKC is this: there is not a single team in the NBA I would bet against OKC during the regular season. Not a single one. I think that OKC maybe after the All-Star break, but OKC shows up with a level of intensity and plays harder in these early season games than other teams do. They value them more. I mean, they just flat out tell you that. Both Shai and Jalen Williams said that in advance of the Boston game. They said it in advance of the New York game. They said it in advance of the Dallas game. They approach these games and play them as though they are meaningful basketball games. And quite frankly, like a lot of the buzz around the Oklahoma, like they shouldn't be like shit on for that, right? Like
No, we should
we
be
want
applauding
people,
that. We want people playing hard.
yeah, 100%. And I think that's a part of the reason there's a ton of excitement around OKC and people like watching them play is because they're fun to watch play, and they're fun to watch play because of that. What I will say about them as a playoff team, once they get to the playoffs, I would bet against them versus Denver. I would bet against them versus Dallas. I would not bet at all OKC versus the Lakers. If we see a good stretch from the Clippers where Kawhi Leonard's healthy and he's entering the playoffs healthy and he's Kawhi Leonard, I would not bet against them versus I would not bet on them versus the Clippers. And my reason for this, and this is sort of my closing thoughts on the Oklahoma City Thunder. I do not think that they're a championship contending team until one of two things happen. Chet Holmgren comes back, shares the floor with Isaiah Hartenstein, and when the spacing on that floor requires him to be out on the perimeter, and teams are, particularly in the playoffs, are invading his space and contesting his shot and forcing them to beat him off the dribble, and they're doing that with lengthy, good perimeter defenders, until he's able to emerge as a consistent second option scorer, I do not think that they're going to win playoff series against good teams. I think that if you match them up with the Lakers, I think both LeBron and Dorian Finney-Smith give him problems out at the perimeter. I think if you match them up against the Mavericks, I think Luka and PJ Washington give him problems out at the perimeter. I think if you match them up with the Nuggets, Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. give him problems out at the perimeter. Peyton Watson gives him problems out at the perimeter. I think there are too many long, athletic, strong defenders. He cannot beat off the dribble from the perimeter, and he's not good enough perimeter shooter to make contested shots over them. And I don't think you can rely on Jalen Williams to be a consistent second option scorer that can get you through the playoffs into the NBA Finals, and certainly not one that's reliable enough to be someone who can win you a final series. So I think Chet has to emerge as that. And if he cannot emerge as that, and I am saying that I do not think he will be able to, I do not think he's going to be someone who's able to beat people off the dribble and make tough contested shots from the perimeter. And I think that the spacing with Hartenstein on the floor will require him to be that. And if you take Hartenstein off the floor, I think that they lose the rebounding battle so badly, just like last year, that they can't compete. And if I'm right about all those things, I think that the answer for OKC long term is going to have to be trading Jalen Williams and some picks for a reliable second option scorer.
I mean, that's what we're going to see this postseason. Like that is going to be, if he does emerge as that, they're the best team in the league. Let's just, if he takes the lead.
If Chet or Jalen emerges as that, yes.
Yeah. That's sort of the calling card, and, we'll have to see. I've been impressed by them. You do their intensity and their professionalism. This is a young team. One of the things that's so surprising about them is this is a young team that plays. I mean, partly probably because they're young and they're not like jaded about having to play D2 games, like a lot of older players are. But they're taking everything really seriously, and they are treating these games with the respect that they deserve. And they earned this win. We can complain about Boston, but they earned this win. The final note I'm going to say is, why was this game at 3:30 on a Sunday? Like
on NBA TV.
Yeah, like what the hell was this? Like this is like this
On an
this was
NFL
a good.
on an NFL weekend where like the Chiefs aren't even playing their starters, Tua's hurt. Like it's the last weekend of the season. No one's like none of these games are really all that meaningful. I mean,
Yeah.
they have implications, but like they're not competitive. All right. Well, I think that pretty much covers, in great detail, not just today's game against OKC and Boston, but it really kind of, unpacks what we see. I don't know if it's the prospects for these teams moving forward, but some of the red flags or potential pitfalls that they could have in the playoffs. Because at the end of the day, like, and we talked about this a lot during our preseason podcast.
Yeah.
We don't like, I'm not saying the regular season doesn't matter. It clearly does. But we are ultimately more concerned with what you're going to be able to do in the playoffs. Like nobody ever talks about how many regular season titles you had. Everybody cares about NBA finals. And I think it is important to sort of analyze these teams from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the one exception to your rule is the Washington Wizards, who do put up their conference, their banners from winning the whatever conference they're in or whatever division they're in, the Atlantic Division banners in their arena.
They do that?
Yeah, they have them. They back to like the Baltimore Bullets, who won theirs in like 1946. So that tells you the level of pedigree the team has.
That's a culture thing.
Yeah. And it was for people who are Celtics fans, it's been a rough period. But I do want to say there has been one beacon of hope, and that is that the Atlanta Hawks have now lost 3 straight. And as a Spurs fan, my true fandom, that brings me great joy as we own their draft pick for this next year. I think we can close this episode by saying, all together, fuck the Hawks. Because we need that. We need that draft pick because the Spurs in front office is so incompetent. There's no other way for us to get.
And to be very clear,
yeah.
Celtics fans don't give a shit about what you're saying right now.
I moved on. We're on the Spurs fandom right now. Let's be very clear.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You transitioned very quickly.
I transitioned out to my true fandom.
Yeah. I mean, I will close by giving Celtics fans one ray of hope. I mean, I would not take the Celtics against the field. I would take the Celtics as the favorites. I don't think they will repeat, but I do think that they have the best chance in the league.
Oh yeah, I think if we're just being really honest, this is a team that is. No one's saying they're not contenders. I will say that they got some things to work out. Put it that way. They got to work out a little better if they want to get there. But they have all the talent they need. Everything is there for them to win the title.
Yeah, and the adjustment they need to make is really just kind of simple. Just pay attention to what's happening in front of you and adjust to it.
Yeah, do that thing you were doing well the first half. How about that? Yeah.
All right. Well, once again, please like and subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcast. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Please share our content. We really appreciate it, guys. And until next time, take care.
Peace.